Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for being here. Today I'm joined by the Department of Labor and the McClure Foundation, who work together to update this year's Most Promising Jobs Report. This list includes over 50 careers with a median age or wage of more than $30 an hour, and each one is projected to have at least 300 openings across the state in the coming years. As I travel around the state, I hear from business owners all the time who have jobs available but can't find the workers to fill them. And that shows up in the data. We've seen our demographics are trending in the wrong direction over many years, but the trajectory is increasing dramatically due to many factors, including baby boomers retiring. In just 10 years, we now see 14,000 fewer kids under the age of 18, 28,000 fewer age 40 to 54, the prime working age, and 48,000 more over the age of 65. So it's more important than ever we make sure our kids and adults looking for new careers know about all the good paying, in-demand opportunities here in the state. And there are a lot of them. As many of you know, I got my start in the trades and have spent many years advocating for CTE and encouraging kids to consider it. Because the reality is we need more workers in the trades to build the houses we need, maintain our existing infrastructure, repair our roads and bridges, and get the power back on after storms. This is especially important with many aging out of the workforce. And we see the need for trades workers reflected again in this year's Most Promising Jobs list, with a need of more than 4,000 carpenters in the next 10 years alone. Education and training is important, but remember, we have 14,000 fewer kids. We can't just train our way out of this. To truly grow our workforce and fill these jobs, we also need to attract more people to move here. So while we focus on housing, we also need to be mindful of overall affordability, because we can't attract workers to our state if they have no place to live or can't afford to pay taxes, shop at our grocery stores and hardware stores, or just enjoy life here in Vermont. So we need to continue to focus on growing our workforce, building the housing we desperately need, and make sure Vermonters and future Vermonters can afford to live and work here. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eric Foran for a situational update on today's weather. Eric?
Thank you, Governor. I did just get a brief from the National Weather Service, so there are a few updates. So there's been some changes to the forecast for the potential rainfall and potential flooding. There is, however, currently, it remains a flood watch for the entire state from 1 p.m. today until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, excluding Grand Isle County. The waves of rain will continue to move through today, becoming heavy at times this afternoon into early overnight. However, the originally expectation of 1 to 2+ inches is now down to 3/4 of an inch to 1 3/4 inches. So the total amounts of rain have been reduced. The amount of snowpack has also been reduced to 1.5 inches to 1/2 inch. So this will reduce the amount of water that mixes in with the rain to create any potential flooding through the rivers. And the rain will change back to snow this is midnight tonight at about the same time as the rivers will crest. There's 2 rivers that are forecast to reach a moderate flood stage. That's Otter Creek at Center Rutland and the Wallamanusick in Bennington. And there's 5 that are forecasted to reach minor flood stage, although 2 of them they're reevaluating. The Lamoille at Johnson and the Connecticut Wells River, with the reduced rainfall amounts, will not reach minor flood stage. But that still leaves the Mad River at Moortown to reach minor flood stage, and the Winooski at Waterbury and Essex Junction, and the Missisquoi at North Troy. So the Emergency Operations Center is at enhanced operations, meaning we're working closely with several state partners, including the National Weather Service, USAR Task Force 1's Building and General Services, Agency of Human Services, and Agency of Transportation, and the Vermont National Guard to maintain situational awareness of this incident and ensure that we are prepared to coordinate resources as needed. We have 13 swiftwater rescue teams, our mutual aid teams around the state are on standby and ready to respond as necessary, and we have the 3 state swiftwater teams standing by. We may locate one of those to central Vermont, and we're still evaluating the need for that. With the potential flooding this evening, even though it is reduced, we still encourage everyone to take time today to prepare a go kit, ensure you have plans should you need to evacuate, and stay alert to the latest weather updates. We also encourage Vermonters to sign up for Vermont Alerts, and you can do this by going to the Vermont Emergency Management website, which is vem.vermont.gov. Unless there are any questions, I will turn it over to Commissioner Harrington.
When you were referencing snow melt
Yes.
inchage, that's the amount that's forecast, of snow that's forecast to end?
So yesterday, National Weather Service went out, and this is sooner than they normally do it. They go out and measure the snowpack, and they can measure the amount of water that's in the snowpack. So when it melts, they know how much that water that turns into. So the snowpack was not as deep as they thought it was. So those numbers trended down, which makes the amount of water that comes out of the snow trend down too.
Any active preparations underway on your part?
We're always actively preparing, but we've been coordinating with other state agencies for the last 2 days, just making sure that things are in place if they need to be, making sure that we're aware of everything that's going on. But in general, it appears that this is much less than last December's storm, although the overall kind of process and what's happening is the same. The amount of water is much less, so we're not envisioning much beyond nuisance-type flooding at this point, but we are ready to respond if necessary.
And is it fair to say that the risk of flooding has decreased alongside this new forecast that's calling for less precipitation?
That is correct. So as of this morning, they reevaluate the elevations of the rivers each day around 11, and the new ones are the two that where the rivers came off from going to minor. So we're seeing some trending down of those as well. And we'll get new numbers later today.
We also received some good news in terms of the reservoirs and dams. So everything looks in good shape.
What was the good news that you got?
Well, that there's more capacity, right? So they're not anywhere near up to the levels we thought they were going to be. So it's much lower. So we have more capacity.
And that coupled with Vermont is in a drought situation in the southern part of Vermont, excessively dry. So we have the capacity to hold extra water.
Commissioner Harrington.
Thank you, Director Ford, and thank you, Governor. It sounds like some positive news there, which is good. So switching topics a little bit away from the weather. It's a true pleasure to be here today in partnership with the McClure Foundation to highlight the 6th edition of the Most Promising Jobs brochure, a publication that highlights Vermont's top jobs based on salary and demand for workers. This collaboration between the department and the McClure Foundation began about 10 years ago. It brings together the department's labor market information and the foundation's ability to bring data to life in a way that is meaningful to job seekers and career advancers. This publication highlights in-demand jobs and careers across a variety of industries and sectors and focuses on occupations using long-term occupational data projections produced by the Department of Labor's Economic and Labor Market Information Division. But it's the partnership with the McClure Foundation that allows this information to be shared in a truly accessible way, ensuring that people who are in transition points in their lives, whether it be a career change, graduating from high school, or looking to advance in their field, have what they need to take the next step. We all know that Vermont needs more workers. We hear it, see it every day, whether it's the coffee shop that can't maintain regular hours due to staffing shortages, or the manufacturing company that can't fill a second shift to meet production demands. Even an employer as large as the state of Vermont feels it. Just ask the folks at the Agency of Transportation looking for plow truck drivers this winter. With roughly 2 jobs for every unemployed person, Vermont is in the middle of a workforce crisis. But as the governor has said repeatedly and has highlighted, in order to grow our labor force, we must prioritize affordability, housing, education, safety, and meaningful employment. And to make measurable gains in these areas, we need skilled workers in key occupations. That is where the Department of Labor comes in. Our team works every day to connect job seekers with hundreds of employers looking for skilled talent. And for those looking to learn a new trade craft, the department promotes a variety of work-based learning programs, like registered apprenticeships, where individuals can gain on-the-job experience while earning a wage and eventually a certificate or license, so that Vermonters of any age can obtain the dream job they've always wanted. But in order to make that important decision, Vermonters need to be able to explore what careers might be a good fit for them. They need to know the education and training needs to pursue a career in a specific field, or how they need to be able to learn and learn more about the career in a specific field. They also need to know what's a good fit for them, which is what makes the Most Promising Jobs initiative and this brochure that you see on the table in front of you so important. Today's event and this publication highlights how the state, through strategic partnership, can use data and information in creative ways to help people make meaningful and informed decisions. Vermont has a lot to offer when it comes to high-skilled job opportunities. So if you're looking to start a new career or explore a new career path, or if you're an employer looking for talent, let us know. We're here to help along that journey. Be sure to check out the Most Promising Jobs brochure. Check out the department online at labor.vermont.gov. I'd like to also specifically thank the McClure Foundation and the Community College of Vermont for their continued partnership in this endeavor. This has been an invaluable tool in our effort to strengthen and grow Vermont's workforce. With that, I'd like to turn it over to McClure Foundation Executive Director, Carolyn Weir. Carolyn?
Thanks, Commissioner. Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Governor Scott and Commissioner Harrington for their commitment to supporting Vermonters' pursuit of these promising jobs and the education and training pathways that lead to them. As a 30-year affiliate of the Vermont Community Foundation, we at the McClure Foundation share that commitment to career pathways. We work to make college and career training the easy choice for young Vermonters, but also for new Vermonters and anyone looking to upskill. And every 2 years, we really look forward to updating this resource. And that's because it draws on the Vermont Department of Labor's long-term occupational projections, which we see as the best cross-sector labor market information available to Vermonters. And we turn it into a hopeful, simple conversation starter. Building hope is a real through line of our work at the McClure Foundation, and I think young Vermonters need some beacons of hope right now. This resource builds hope by helping Vermonters and those who want to move to Vermont imagine futures they can create right here. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the longtime Vermont Economic and Labor Market Information Director, Matt Barowitz, who couldn't be here today, for the creativity and impact that he has brought to this 10-year partnership. But I want to share why I'm feeling hopeful today. I'm feeling especially hopeful because 85,000 copies of this thing are currently being sent across the state, and that's the equivalent of one for every 8 Vermonters. And it features such a diversity of occupations. These occupations give Vermonters what they need, right? A good paycheck and meaningful work and connection to community, but it also gives Vermont what Vermont needs, right? Governor Scott already talked about the fact that we need carpenters to build houses, and we need electric and telecommunications line installers to bring broadband and electric car infrastructure to the state, and we need civil engineers to help imagine that new infrastructure. And of course, we need healthcare workers to take care of us when we're sick and to keep us healthy. I'm also feeling hopeful because the state is making a lot of investments in new and supportive pathways to these jobs. At the McClure Foundation, we're really proud to partner with the Department of Labor and the Vermont Agency of Education on a new Vermont registered apprenticeship pathway to teacher licensure. And in fact, 28 aspiring teachers in the Northeast Kingdom are being supported in that pathway right now, including a mid-career shifter named Vince, who is an elementary grade teacher apprentice whose story is featured in this month's edition of Vermont Business Magazine. I'm also hopeful because through our foundation's Easy Access mini grant program, through which we support in small ways work at schools and CTE centers and community organizations who are using this information with students and with job seekers, we get to hear about amazing local efforts to support career awareness and career education happening every day in communities across the state. And we hear from caring adults in every single community who are going above and beyond to help young people think about the roles they want work to play in their adult lives, the set of information and experiences that are going to inch them closer to thinking about that question. And young people are being supported to connect with employers and access work-based learning opportunities. They are attending Graduate with a Plan event in their communities and financial reality fairs and lesson plans and workshops put together by VSAC and Careers Click. They are learning about new opportunities like service to career pathways and the Vermont Free Degree Promise, which allows for an accelerated pathway to free CCV degrees that open the door to some of these jobs. So for so many reasons, I'm feeling hopeful today. And folks both in the state and looking to move to the state can request free copies of this resource from us. They can also access 7 translations of the resource on our website, where they can also learn about a wealth of job seeker resources at the Vermont Department of Labor and on My Future VT. With that, I'll turn it over to CCV President Joyce Judy.
Thank you, Carolyn. And, you know, as you hear these speakers, you hear a lot of consistency and the similar themes as we talk about this. But at CCV, we really have 2 primary goals. And one is to help Vermonters gain the skills and knowledge they need for the jobs that are here in Vermont. And then our second goal is then to work with employers to make sure that they have the employees that they need to be successful in their workplace. So we are so pleased to work with the governor, with the McClure Foundation, with the Department of Labor, and others to really make Vermont the place where we have the employees and we have the employers, really, and it's a match. The new Promising Jobs Report, as Carolyn mentioned, provides a really hopeful message to Vermonters. Because, you know, oftentimes we'll hear from folks, there are no jobs in Vermont, there are no good jobs in Vermont. And this brochure really highlights that there are so many and so many opportunities for Vermonters and for people who are interested in thinking about moving to Vermont. But the key to the success of these jobs is really investing in themselves and investing in education. And it's always, you know, if you invest in yourself and you invest in education, it's something no one can ever take away from you. And you can always build on that. And in Vermont, we have an incredibly robust set of resources that really help people gain those skills and knowledge. From the McClure Foundation, from VSAC, Vermont Student Assistance Corporation, from the Vermont State Colleges to the University of Vermont, and many, many other providers. So there's a lot of opportunities for Vermonters to be able to advance their skills. And so my message to Vermonters today is you have options. You have a lot of options and you have a lot of opportunities. And as we think about the fields that are identified and the jobs that are identified in the Most Promising Jobs program, there are so many different ways to achieve those jobs. For example, there's the Earn and Learn program. And when I talk about Earn and Learn, that means being able to go to school and work at the same time. Because so many Vermonters can't give up their paycheck to return to school, but they can. There are so many more opportunities through apprenticeship, through just very traditional standard learn and earn options where people can work and continue their education. And we're seeing that very successfully done in advanced manufacturing because so many employers are so desperate in that particular field. Another pathway to do it is CCV offers a lot of certificate programs, which are very short and very compressed collection of courses that really help people get started in a particular field. You can then enter that as an employee, but also this is a way to transfer to other schools like the nursing program at Vermont State University. So we have a tremendous number of people who complete our allied health certificate and then transfer to Vermont State University just to complete their nursing courses. So when they transfer there, all they have to do is take their nursing specific courses. And as Carolyn mentioned, another option is the teacher licensure apprenticeship program. We have also really strong apprenticeship programs in Vermont, particularly with plumbing and electrical. And you're going to see more and more of those programs developed. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that I think one of the things that people often think about when they think about continuing education is they're worried about the cost. It can be perceived as a barrier, but I'm here to tell you that it's oftentimes much less expensive than you think, because there are so many opportunities that have been created, particularly in the last 5 to 7 years in Vermont. And you know, I want to give a shout out to both the governor and to the legislature for really stepping up to the plate in terms of thinking about affordability and helping people be able to afford to continue their education. VSAC's 802 Opportunity Program, which allows any Vermonter who they or their families earn less than $75,000 a year can attend CCV at no cost to them. That is huge. That's half of all Vermont families. The second is with the McClure support, creating the Free Degree Promise, which is a program that offers high school seniors who have done early college at CCV the opportunity to finish their CCV degree at no cost to them. When I talk about this, these are huge opportunities because if a student chooses to stop after an associate degree, they have no debt. But if they transfer to another school, like say they transfer to UVM, and many of our students do transfer to UVM, they have saved $30,000 on the front end of their education. That is real money. And so there are lots of opportunities, and so if people are hesitant about continuing their education because, oh, I don't think I can afford it, I don't want to go into debt, I would say reach out because there are so many opportunities. So in closing, as we think about 2025, I would encourage Vermonters, this is oftentimes a new year for a new year resolution, that make a commitment that you're going to continue and advance yourself by investing in education and getting the job, the dream job that you hope to have. So with that, I will turn it back to the governor.
Thank you, Joyce. I'll open up to questions at this time.
Governor, and I think this might go for anybody on the stage here, but what kinds of opportunities are there for Vermonters over 65? I'm thinking in the Vermont Futures Project says in the last, I think 20 years, we used to have like 77,000 or so people over 65. Now it's somewhere in the neighborhood of like 40-ish thousand. Demographics, of course, skewing older. What opportunities are there in the workforce for older Vermonters or part-time?
I would say almost anything in some respects, because there's an opportunity. We have many positions open. Obviously, it's up to them whether they want to come back into the workforce, but there's always opportunity. But recognizing, and again, respecting the fact that they want to retire too. So. And that's where the affordability piece comes in. We want to make sure that it's affordable for them to retire and stay here. But again, that's been difficult, to say the least, over the last few years for many on fixed incomes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think labor force participation rates among 25 to 64-year-olds are actually down over the 10 years that you've been doing this. And you talked about all the new programs that have come online, all the things you're doing that you're trying to get people in the labor force. So can you reconcile that disconnect?
I don't know if it's the raw numbers, but there are fewer working age people in the state, so that would lead you to me, unless it's a percentage.
I think labor force participation also, it's not just the absolute number of...
I don't have that number. I don't know if you do.
Yeah, I don't have the number off the top of my head. I would think, based on my knowledge, that it has stayed pretty consistent, give or take a 0.1% here or there. It also doesn't count people that are classified as institutionalized, so it also doesn't count certain folks that are in full-time educational roles as well. So I'd have to do a little more digging. If Matt was here, I think he'd know it off the top of his head for sure.
Maybe we can get that for Peter.
Yeah.
These median wages, are that census data that you're getting that from?
Yes, and we're seeing actually a big uptick in median wages, right? This is 2023 wage data aged to 2025, and this is the first time in the decade that we have produced this resource that we're seeing several jobs that pay 6 figures. And not all of those jobs require doctoral degrees or graduate degrees, right? There are a couple of jobs like dental hygienists that require an associate degree, right, and unlock the potential to earn 6 figures. As I understand it from our friends over at the Labor Market Information Division at the Department of Labor, as we assess the increase in wages over time, we're seeing relatively higher gains among the bottom quintiles too, which is encouraging. We like to see.
And if I go to the website or I call the number and I say I want to be a financial services consultant or I want to be a family social worker, What happens next?
If you call the number, you'll be linked to someone in our workforce development division, and it may depend on where you live or what office is closest to where you live. But we'll sit down with you and we'll go through different options, whether it's educational options or different licensure or training options. And again, we'll work with you depending on what that person's skill is, educational level already, what their interests are, and we'll help explore those different career paths, either through our partners or maybe an apprenticeship program that already exists somewhere. So there's a lot of different opportunities depending on what field you're wanting to go into.
But I'm getting a one-on-one consult
Yep.
with a human being.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, we'll, over the phone, we'll connect with you, set up a time to have you come to our office or do a virtual meeting. So it is one-to-one.
Governor, maybe on a separate topic, downstairs, there's a handful of nurses from the UVM Nurses Union looking to you for your thoughts and your guidance, your thoughts on the proposed cuts at Central Vermont Medical Center, primary care in Mad River Valley, inpatient beds at Central or UVM as a result of the Greenmount Care Board's budget order.
Well, again, I think there's a lot of concern out there. This is not easy. We're in the situation we're in due to our demographics and some of the unaffordability of the state. So it impacts every sector. And whether we're talking about schools or we're talking about healthcare, we have to protect the system, but we also have to make changes because we can't afford what we have. So this is a situation where the Vermont Care Board needs to be involved. Obviously, UVM Medical Center needs to be involved, legislature, and ourselves. So this isn't going to be something we can fix right now, but I hope that we'll all take stock in this and find a way to provide healthcare services to those who need it, and we have a system that we can afford as well.
There's a lot of players in the healthcare ecosystem, I think it's fair to say. I mean, have you thought about putting together a meeting, a roundtable, a blue ribbon commission, just to get everybody around the table, just to share and understand what are we trying to achieve here?
Yeah, well, that's what the report was about. The report that was commissioned by the legislature that was delivered. So we'll start with that. That's going to be presented to the legislature, and we'll be working off from that document. So it's not as though no one is interested in doing anything, but we have a path forward, and we need to contemplate that. I saw somewhere where the healthcare committees in the legislature are going to take this up early on. So I think everyone will have their say and will be a piece of this and part of the, hopefully, part of the solution.
What do you see? I mean, in that article that was referenced, there was the Joint Oversight Committee last week. Lawmakers said that, to fix the immediate, restoring some of these services or helping hospitals with their ailing budgets, they said they don't really have a lot of tools. What do you see as your responsibility, your administration's responsibility in helping this situation?
Well, again, we're going to have to prioritize, and it's not ever easy to do that. And again, whether it's our healthcare system and our education system are similar in many, many respects. We have, an aging population in terms of healthcare. We're aging out of the workforce, but we also, as we age, we need more services, and we're not backfilling with enough of the youth to take us through this. Typically, what happened was we'd have a healthy youth sector that was in the workforce and would actually pay a part of the premiums in order to have a system that worked. We're somewhat upside down here in Vermont. So again, there's no one single answer here, but affordability is part of that, and bringing more people in is part of the answer as well. And that's why we need housing. So we have to prioritize something, and we're faced with many, many different crises. So we have to pick something, and we have to make sure that we prioritize, and it's never easy to do that, but we're going to have to.
Just to clarify, so you mentioned Secretary Saunders has been working on the education angle of this. You said that your administration will be bringing forward ideas at some point during the session. Can we expect some slate of ideas or proposals having to do with healthcare from your AHS?
Well, we'll be part of the conversation, but we have a Green Mountain Care Board, an independent body that oversees the budgets of the hospitals. That was a legislative action. So it took it away from, in some respects, took that out of the executive branch. It used to be BISCA, but now it's the Green Mountain Care Board. So they're going to have to be an integral part of this conversation, as well as the hospitals themselves. So we can't continue to do what we've been doing and expect different results. So we need to focus on this. Again, we have to have a system that works for everyone and protect those who need our help. Healthcare is important.
Based on what you've seen so far, do you have faith in the Green Mountain Care Board to make the right decisions on behalf of Vermonters?
Well, I mean, this is, I have faith that it's a well-rounded board with economists and others, and I think that they can come together and help find our way to solutions. But again, the report that was given is pretty stark. But I think there's something maybe in between that and what we're doing right now.
But you're ready to leave it to them to make those decisions?
No, I've said before. I mean, we're all going to have a piece of this. It's going to go through the legislature. The legislature is taking up the report. We'll be involved. Legislature will be involved. Green Mountain Care Board will be involved, and the healthcare community will be involved. So it's not any one. This isn't a hands-off approach. This is everyone having their voice heard in the process.
I guess maybe just to follow up, from what we've been hearing and seeing, some of these discussions have been playing out in the press. They've been playing out in press releases. There just really hasn't necessarily, it seems like, been a cohesive, everybody sort of having that face-to-face dialogue and having a common understanding of what you're talking about. Even the Act 167 report, the Oliver Wyman report you mentioned, there's a fierce disagreement of the underlying data in it. So how do we all get on the same page?
Well, I think, again, there will be a lot of testimony taken on that in the legislative process, which will start in early to mid-January. And I think that there'll be people coming together at that point, and we'll sort this all out.
All right, we'll move to the phones. Keith Whitcomb, Rutland Herald.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Ann Wallace Allen, 7 days. All right, we'll move on. Kevin Cullen, Boston Globe.
Hello, Governor. I'm sorry I couldn't be there today. I just wanted to ask you, in the weeks that have passed since you suggested the state needed to hit the brakes on meeting its targets on carbon emission reduction because of the affordability concerns, have you received any feedback that would encourage you that environmentalists and legislators agree with you and that you guys can find a way to compromise in the upcoming session?
Well, Kevin, as you probably know, I never thought that the target dates were realistic. When the Global Warming Solutions Act was passed, I vetoed it, and part of the reason I vetoed it was because of those issues. So I still don't think it's realistic. The dates aren't realistic, not practical, and I don't think we can attain them. But we gave a private right of action as well, and that just complicates things. So I just want us to we want to focus on this. We all want to do the right thing. Climate change is real. But again, as we talked about before, whether it's healthcare or education or climate change or workforce, we're faced with many, many different crises. And we can't solve all of them at once. So we are forced to prioritize. So we'll work our way through that process, but I can't say that I've heard from any environmental groups or legislators who have said that they agree. I haven't heard from legislators that they disagree either, but we'll see.
All right, thank you, Governor.
Lisa, Waterbury Roundabout. All right, we'll move on. Ethan, BT Digger.
Hi, Governor. You spoke to this a bit in response to Calvin's question, but I'm wondering, in response to the Oliver Wyman report, are there recommendations in that report that you see as worth prioritizing or perhaps easier to achieve than some of the other more complex and disruptive recommendations in that report?
Yeah, I'm sure there's bits and pieces of the report that we should consider. I don't have a list of what they are, but again, it's an in-depth report, and I'm sure that we'll contemplate all of those. The legislature will, we will, the Green Mountain Care Board will as well. But again, we have to protect the system. We need health care. It's important to all of us, and we just need to make sure that we can afford what we have and not drive it into a situation where it can't survive. So again, I think we can get there. I believe that if we all have the affordability in mind, but as well protecting the system in mind, and those particularly the vulnerable populations in mind, we'll get through this and figure it out.
Thank you.
All right, back to the room for any final questions.
Governor, is it fair to say that these proposed cuts at UVM, you're talking about saving the system, making it sustainable in the long run? Is it fair to say that as painful as these cuts might be, that they might be a necessary cut?
I think UVM Medical Center needs to give the reasoning why they are taking the actions they're taking and put it into layman's terms so that the general public understands it. But again, they want the same thing that we want, I believe. And maybe there's some action that the Green Mountain Care Board can take and we can consider to keep these cuts from being so impactful on so many. So we'll have the conversation probably earlier in the session than not.
Some of these are supposed to go in the beginning of January 1st.
We'll see what they decide to do. Thank you all. Thank you again. Appreciate it.